All right, welcome back to Tiff Talks. My hands are itching because we're talking with a money man today. Guys, I have with me a business partner, a friend, a colleague, someone I really admire and look up to, a very successful guy in Cumberland County and arguably the #1 mortgage lender in the area. You've probably heard his name, Blaise Menzoni.
Well, Tiff, thank you very much. I'm blushing a little here. My head just grew a couple inches, but I'm
the truth.
Flattered by that, and I appreciate that, and I definitely consider you a friend, and I appreciate our relationship personally and professionally.
Thank you.
You know, one of the favorite people that I get to deal with on a professional basis day to day.
Same.
And, you know, always a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you, Blaise. I appreciate that. We've been going on for 7 years now doing business.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I think we met on Columbia Avenue at a house.
Oh, wow.
On that very first, you had another lender. No, Columbia and Vineland. It was, I can't remember the client's name, but there was another lender that turned the property down for condition. And I don't even know how you got my name, but somehow you got my name. I came and checked the property out. It might have been through the client. I don't really remember, but it's kind of been history ever since then.
Wow. I actually don't remember that, but I'm so glad you do. I'm glad. Yeah, we made an impression, and you've just been great since we started working together. And so how long have you been in the business?
They're going to make me feel old. 19 years.
19
So,
years.
yeah, 2004 I started.
Wow.
So 19 years of, getting the pleasure of meeting a lot of cool people and helping people make, their dream home a reality, which has always been a passion of mine. You know, we really impact people's lives in a major way,
Yeah, you do.
And both of us, I mean, from the real estate side, the mortgage side, we go together like peanut butter and jelly, one might say. But, it's the biggest investment for the average person that they ever make in their life. And, when they choose us as their professional, it's an honor, and I take that pretty serious. And it's just about doing a good job. Like my philosophy, and I think you probably agree with this, is that, when I talk to a client, I want to do a damn good job, so good that they become my free salesperson, right? And
Exactly.
where anytime that they're out here and somebody talking about a mortgage or buying a house, they're like, hey, you got to call my guy Blaise. He was great.
It's a trusted name.
Been
Yeah,
19 years of hard work for that.
Absolutely. So what did you do before mortgages?
I went to college. I mean, this was technically my only real job.
Same.
So, I had a couple jobs in high school growing up. I worked on a farm as my very first job. I worked at a golf course for a little bit. And then I had my own little detail business. I always had a little hustle through, high school and college. I did that. And then I went to college to become an accountant. My father was a CPA, went to University of Delaware.
So you're always good with numbers.
Numbers have been my thing since I was little, even back, in the SAT days when I took it, the highest score was a 1600. And I think I scored a 13 something, and it was almost perfect in math and like borderline failure in English. So I knew that I had to do something with numbers when I became a professional.
All right. So did you pursue being an accountant?
I did. I went and got a degree in accounting, and it's kind of a crazy story how I even got into the mortgage business. It all ties together. So of course I wanted to follow my dad's footsteps. He had his own firm, and I knew I didn't want to work for him, but I knew that if I knew accounting, I would know the back end of pretty much any business. And, with having that general accounting background, gave me the knowledge to kind of flow wherever I saw the money or passion of something that I cared about. I graduated in May of 2004.
Where'd you go?
University of Delaware. And
Nice.
we kind of,
That's a good school.
it was great. Big party school, had a lot of fun there.
That's what I heard.
I know it's hard to believe, but it was a good time.
Actually, it was like the #1 party school in America at one point.
It was actually
a couple years.
my freshman year. It was still the #1 party school, and I kind of saw the transition from party school to more of a bar school. By the time I graduated, the parties had kind of, fallen off a little and become more of a bar school. But we definitely threw some ragers. My junior year there, we had a party where we went through 12 kegs of beer.
No way.
By 12 o'clock at night, and then the cops shut us down. We probably had 700 people at a house.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
That's
pretty.
insane. I went to the wrong school.
It was pretty epic.
Anyway, back to business.
As we digress. I graduate at University of Delaware. We graduated Little Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, wow.
So
Nice.
I think it was May, maybe 15th, give or take a day or two. I actually had an interview with a local accounting firm down the shore, Fabietti Hale & Associates. And they're an amazing group of professionals, probably the #1 accounting firm in South Jersey.
Oh, nice.
And they made me an offer. And I was like, listen, guys, I have one other interview. I'm really not that serious about it, but I don't graduate until May 25th. I was like, can you give me till June 1st to make a decision? And they said, yeah. They knew my father, and they said, my biggest concern is that we hire you, and once you're really worth something to me, you're going to go work for your dad. I said, listen, you don't know my dad that well then. And I love my dad, one of the smartest guys I know, but, we wouldn't have been able to work together, that's for sure. So I told them I'd get back to them, and they gave me that opportunity. And in the meantime, I had a family friend who was a few years older than me, had called me up, and he was like, yo, what are you doing this weekend? I was like, I'm, just one of my last weekends here at school, packing some stuff up, getting ready to move home. He's like, I'm going to stop by. So he comes to my house. It's a Saturday. We're like drinking a beer at probably 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And he had been in the mortgage business for about a year and a half at that time. And he had met a guy in Miami who owned part of a mortgage company in New York that wanted to open in New Jersey. So they gave my buddy the opportunity to open up a branch. And
after just a year in the business.
Nice. And I mean, he was a really good salesman. And
you want a name drop?
Yeah, Ron Biaggi. Ronnie's since passed away. Kind of led me to where I am today, and I will always pay much respect to Ron. Ron was just an amazing dude. Anybody who knew him has 1,000,001 amazing stories, and they all probably entail some type of major laughter and comedic relief because he was one of the best guys ever. And awesome. I mean, he changed my life, really. He did, because I probably would have been a nerdy accountant if it wasn't for him. Awesome. And I can remember, he's like, dude, they're giving me this opportunity. You'd be so good at this. And he whips out a pay stub. And I can remember this to this day. It was May 15th, or actually it might have been his April 30th pay stub, I lied, of 2003, and I think he made like $80,000 year to date. And I looked at that and I'm like, man, these guys offered me $50,000 for the year.
Wow.
This guy's made $80,000 already.
Sounds like Jordan Belford.
Yeah, like, this is pretty serious. So at that point, I really thought like the next 24 hours of my life were heavily, what am I going to do?
Conflicted, yeah. And
I'm like, I'm 22 years old. I have no ties to anything. If I'm ever going to take a gamble, this is probably the time to do it. Yeah. So I tested my sales skills, and I called my parents and I said, hey guys, you spent $100,000+ for me to go get this accounting degree. How would you feel if I turned down that job offer that I have and went to go work at a startup company that's commission only? And the conversation went better than you would assume. And my parents supported me 100%, and they said, listen, this is your life. Wow. You've always made pretty good decisions. If this is what you want to do, we don't want to hold you back. If it doesn't work, you have your degree. You could work for your father. You could work for any other accounting company. No one could take that away. You've already earned that. And they supported me 100%.
That's awesome.
Now, disclaimer, in the back of my mind, my childhood best friend, Dave Mazowski, his parents ran a mortgage company, and they were in the mortgage business since the early 90s. And
were you feeling a little guilty?
Well, not really. It'll all come full circle in a minute. Okay. So in the back of my head, Dave and I actually went to college together, and he left after our junior year to go work for his parents because they got pretty busy. So they always lived a good life, and they were super great people, and I knew they wouldn't have let their son leave school if it wasn't a pretty good opportunity. So that helped me make my decision about going to work for Ronnie. And I worked for Ronnie for a good year and change, and Dave's stepdad, the true legend of mortgages in Cumberland County, Mark Goldberg, was the GOAT before your time, but this guy was the guy. Cool. He would always call me and say, hey, when you're ready to do this the right way, just give me a call. Nice. And it was kind of the boys club where I worked, and it was a lot of fun. It was kind of like a real life version of Boiler Room, if you remember that movie. Oh, yeah, cool. And it was a blast, and I knew I loved the industry. The company wasn't the greatest. We did like a lot of internet leads and phone calls, and it wasn't the realtor-based, local, true connection that we have here now. But it was something that let me know I knew the business, and I liked it, and I knew that I wanted to take it to the next level, and it wasn't there. So after about a year and change, I called Dave's stepdad, Mark, and said, hey, that offer's still on the table. Nice. And that was February of 2005. I can remember it, and they took me in. And kind of never looked back. I mean, Dave and I eventually took over that business, So it was a company called Gateway Funding, which was well known in this area due to Mark and his wife Angie. And they really worked tirelessly to help the community. And I mean, they changed a ton of people's lives around here. They were one of the first people doing the grant loans. As a lot of people know, they're tough to do. They take a lot of time, but they really were true, beacons of the community. Yeah, they wanted to really just make an impact on people's lives. And Mark told me something, when I first got there, if you were buying a church, I wanted to find a bank to broker that deal to. If you had, a 6-unit commercial building, I wanted to do this. He said, listen, take your energy and focus it on one thing, master your craft. Luckily for me, I chose purchase money mortgages, and, here I am 19 or however many years later,
Amazing.
Doing what I do.
So you were with Finance of America a couple years later.
Yeah, so Gateway Funding was 05 till roughly, don't quote me on this, but about 2000 and maybe 11-ish, 12-ish. Gateway Funding got bought up by Finance of America. It might have been 13.
Oh, okay.
Finance of America was a Blackstone company, and Blackstone is a private equity firm. And what they do is they buy and sell assets. So they bought Gateway Funding and 3 other regional mortgage companies, merged them together into a very, actually, secretly, not a lot of people knew Finance of America, but they were probably one of the top 20 lenders in the country, volume-wise. And, they pieced all these strategic players together and built a really big company. They eventually took it public like they do. And it was a great run. Really met a ton of awesome people. The CEO of that company was Bruno Pacheri, who he's another guy that really impacted me. Something that he kind of said to me early in my career that has never been more true was do the right thing for the right reason, and everything else just kind of falls into place. And it's kind of been my motto,
That's great.
And, there's been times where, I remember I had a whiteboard and I would write down all the commissions I was anticipating and have all my loans up there. And
I do that.
yeah, and I did, listen, it was good, and it was good motivation. And then the more
You needed a new whiteboard.
Well, a couple whiteboards,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And, I kind of just stopped worrying about all that. And I just worried about being the best loan officer I could, giving my clients the best information and service that I could.
I love that.
And I never, ever, ever had to chase a commission since that day. It kind of was one of those pivotal points where, all
so
these...
profound.
Yeah, all these important people in your life say all these things, right? And you never know what's truly going to impact you or change your direction. And that was definitely one of those key moments where, he had said it, and it didn't set in right away, It took probably maybe a couple months. And it just kept replaying in my mind, and I kind of made it my mantra. And ever since then, it's, been history.
That's so good. You got to come from contribution. And as long as you're helping people, everything else falls into place, like you said. I love that. Yep. And so I love that that's your mantra, and that's just your temperament. Like, you're always cool, and you never let anything bother you, and you really can't in this business. Yeah. But my question to you is, how do you stay so calm? How do you keep it together with as much business as you do, how big your company is? What's your key? Well,
a couple things. One is I have the best support staff in the industry. I will go toe-to-toe with anybody out there that wants to challenge that.
I love it. Shout out to Justine.
Justine's my assistant, my right hand, all the girls in the office. I mean, my processors, my underwriters, my closers. They are true mortgage professionals, and they make me look good. And I appreciate them so much.
And they've been with you for many years. It's like a family.
Really, since the beginning, honestly. I mean, my underwriter, Donna, has been with the company since 05, since I started. Nice. Kim has been there since probably shortly thereafter that. She actually was with Gateway from 1996. We brought her to our branch, I want to say, in 2007. So we are kind of like a family, slightly dysfunctional, but a caring, loving family.
Well, all families are dysfunctional.
Yeah, and even the girls really care about all the clients, and that's kind of our difference. And even when I'm talking to a customer and they might be rate shopping, and, our rates are super competitive, but, if you scour the internet, you might be able to find someone an eighth cheaper. But there's a price for having someone local that cares, having a team knows the market, has the right connections with appraisers, as you know, with title companies, and has the relationships that really allows us to do what we do. It's invaluable. And, I explain that to people. I'm like, hey, you might be able to save an eighth if you go to Rocket Mortgage, but you're going to deal with somebody in Michigan that you're never going to see at Wawa, that isn't part of your community,
True.
that doesn't really care if your loan closes because it's just a commission to them. Where me, it's my relationship.
And your reputation.
And my reputation, 100%. My relationship with you as my professional partner, my relationship with you as my client. And, that means the world to me. So, we really focus in on that. And I try to tell them, like, it's hard to understand for somebody who maybe doesn't do mortgages, but like, you go to a big company and you become nothing but a loan number. You stay with a smaller company like ours and you're a person, right? And we care about it. We know you're packing
You can pull up and we can talk face to face.
100%. If you have questions, you're unsure, you come sit there. You could drop your documents off. We'll hold your hand.
Yeah.
One of my buddies who's been working with me for about 2 years, I brought him in from the car business. He goes, you guys offer what I call a la carte service. He was like, you should almost charge more for this.
Right.
I'm like, well, this is all just part of doing what we do at the level that we do it.
Right.
We kind of, so digress. So let me go back to the Finance of America thing. So we kind of got into that. So Finance of America goes public, great company, going back to meeting a ton of awesome people there. And in probably, I want to say September, October of 2022, my boss calls me, and dear friend, Jay Madursky, shout out to Jay if you're watching this. And he says, hey, bud, I think the wheels are falling off this thing. I just got a call from corporate management. They know rates are rising. And we had just come off the COVID run of 2 to 3% interest rates.
Crazy.
And crazy business where, when COVID started, I think we were all kind of really uncertain of what the future looked like. I know I was.
Right.
And I was braced for a storm. And that storm became literally one of the best mortgage and real estate booms that we've seen.
Yeah, anybody could sell a house.
Yeah, and it was great. And I mean, we did some really big numbers, and so did the company. And they took it public. Not the CEO, like I'm talking the shareholders, all the big guys who really played a role, made a ton of money when they went public. And in typical Wall Street fashion, when things slowed up, they took the option of just closing the company down instead of reinvesting profits. So they told us, hey guys, it's been a great run, but good luck. So it was basically 2 to 3 months of me going on a tour of every mortgage company in South Jersey or across the country.
And I'm sure they all wanted you.
Oh, we got some crazy offers.
Like what?
I
know you guys get some nice sign-on bonuses.
I turned down $1 million sign-on company with a very large, well-respected company.
Why?
I won't say their name out of respect for them. Well, they just wanted me. They didn't want my whole team. And they wanted me to take everything.
You turned down $1 million for your team?
Hand to God.
Yo, that is I love that. I respect that.
Yeah. And listen, it was for my team, but it was for myself too, right?
Yeah.
Because
that's
I know,
integrity right there.
I know without my team, I can't do what I do. And they wanted me to basically decentralize my ops, use their corporate, underwriting, processing, and closing, which I would have lost all control of my files. I would have been no different than all the guys. The Rocket Mortgage that I've told all these customers for years not to use. I would have been that guy. Now, don't get it twisted. I wanted that $1 million bad, and I tossed and turned over it. But I knew that I couldn't do that to the people that I love and care about, that are my coworkers and my extended family. And more importantly, to myself, right? It, as crazy as it sounds, it would have been the stupidest $1 million I ever took. Which, not that I've taken another $1 million for the record, but it would have been the stupidest $1 million you could have received. Let me say it better that way. And
that is so respectable.
yeah, it was, even the guy who recruited me, who was the CEO of this very well-known company. I mean, they own a stadium. We'll leave it at that.
Wow.
He said, you're literally the only person that's ever turned down that type of money. And I said, it's nothing personal, but it's just, especially in our area, our loans are tough. They require that hand-holding. They require that deep relationship with the underwriter and working through the file to get it to closing. And I just felt that was all out the window if I made that decision.
Wow.
And, I could have got $1 million. And listen, I think about it, especially with the market slowing down. I'm like, damn, that would have been nice. But it would have been mega short-sighted on my part. And morally, even if I thought it was the right business decision for me personally, which I didn't, I couldn't have done that to my people.
Wow. That's what's up. And that's why I love working with you. Yeah. You have never crossed me. You've never disrespected me. You've never made me feel bad. You've never made me feel like you want to do your best for the deal. And I love you for that. And that's why, I've worked with a lot of mortgage lenders. You know how we do in this industry.
Yeah.
We kind of test the waters with other people, but you have just never failed me. And I'm super happy that we reconnected, and we've been doing great things together. It's just great energy all the time.
I appreciate that so much, and I agree. Your energy is like no one else, Tiff, let me tell you.
No,
you bring your A game all the time, and it's always a joy working with you, right? I probably work with over 100 different real estate agents, and, the majority of them are awesome, and I love all of them in some way, shape, or form. But there's, the top tier agent, right? You work with someone like yourself. I know you're doing your part, right? My job's hard enough. There's some of these agents that you work with that you're like, man, how'd you even get your license? And, now I'm worried about doing your part, right? My part's hard enough, let alone having to worry about your part. And one of the reasons I love working with you is that I don't ever have to worry about that. I know that inspections are lined up. If there's an addendum coming or there's a change to that mortgage that deal that's going to affect the mortgage process, you're immediately letting us know so we could react and be in front of our consumer and let them know what's going on.
Yes.
So many times, we get to, we have a deal in process and we're 3 days before closing and the realtor's like, oh my God, I forgot to send that addendum changing the price. I'm like, well, yeah, it's kind of important. Maybe I should have known that.
Yeah, right.
And then
everything.
And then we get it and it was signed 2 weeks before. And listen, everybody's busy. We all
that
make
would never happen with me. Never.
Truth. But and I even understand it. Like we all make mistakes. We're busy. Life is crazy professionally and personally. And I don't ever begrudge anybody for making those mistakes. But if you make a mistake, own it.
Exactly.
Listen, I've screwed up 1,000,001 times in my career. I will probably screw up again, but when I do, I'm going to own it like a man. I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to do everything in my power to correct that mistake, even if it costs me money.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. So, guys, if you want to work with the dream team, you know who to call. Nation One and Tiff. Well,
that's right.
Blaise Menzoni from Nation One.
So we'll get to the Nation One thing.
Okay.
Right. So I'm talking to all these companies. And listen, every company that I talked to was a reputable, amazing company.
Of course.
And, my new boss and the owner of Nation One, Joe Lang, is a guy who's only 2 years older than me, who was a loan officer, who operated at a high volume like I did. And when he first started his company, it's funny, we got into a tiff with corporate at the time. We were pissed at him. And I was like, that's it. We're out of here. I'm done. And we met with this guy who just opened up Nation One. He came from a company called Acre Mortgage. And when we really kind of showed him behind the curtains and what we were doing, he said, listen, Blaise, I would love for you to work for me, but I can't even handle your volume right now. Now, here's a guy who put everything on the line, right? Walked away from a great job to make his dream a reality and desperately needed my business, right, at that time. But my business was so big that he wasn't ready for that. His platform wasn't ready. And he told me that. I mean, that's another class of person, right?
Yeah.
So that was always in the back of my head that this guy, Joe, was a really good dude. And he was basically me, except he had the balls to put it all out there and do what I talked about doing, but never did. So that was in the back of my mind. And I didn't reach out to him immediately. I talked to some other people. The guys from corporate had a relationship with another company, and most of the guys from Finance of America went to this other company. And it just was kind of that big corporate feeling. And, I'd kind of just been burned by that, right? And I wanted that more mom and pop feel. One of my concerns were, well, if you work for a smaller company, are they going to have the products and the pricing that I'm used to? And you think, economies of scale really run everything in the world. Yeah. And Finance of America was doing about $2 billion a month in fundings, right? 3,500 employees. And for the last 7 years in units, not total volume financed. I'm going to brag for a second. I was their number one sales guy in Cumberland County.
Let's go.
Super proud of that.
How many units did you sell last year?
Last year was about 500. 2021 was my all-time record. It was 667 deals for approximately $150 million. So
nice. That
was that crazy COVID year of rates in the 2s and 3s. I would love to see that again. And, every day I tell myself, all right, so the real estate market got smaller. What do I got to do? I got to grow my sphere, right? So I try to never stay in one place at the same time. I'm constantly moving, constantly progressing. And I wake up every day a little nervous, right? Which I don't have to.
I feel that pressure.
But it's what drives me,
Yeah,
you know, like I know I'll be okay, but I always have that little bit of fear in my belly.
A warrior mentality.
100%, fight or flight.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm ready for war.
Let's go.
Throw the war paint on and let's go.
I love that.
So I interview all these companies. We digressed, right?
We can go on tangents on Tiff Talks.
100 tangents are approved on Tiff Talks. You heard it here. So I'm talking to all these companies, and you know, I'm like, let me reach out to Joe over at Nation One. So I meet with Joe, and after meeting with him for about a half hour, I was like 90% sure that this is where I was going.
Nice.
And he said something that kind of sticks out to me. He's like, yo, man, you've been on a cruise ship all these years. It's time for you to get on a speedboat.
Oh.
And, you know, it was a great analogy. And now that I've been on the speedboat all year, I'm so happy to be there.
What makes it a speedboat?
We're nimble. I mean, you need to close a deal in a week. We could close a deal in a week.
You heard it here.
I mean, literally, you know, we need to borrow.
You've done it. You've done 18 days for me was the quickest that we've had so far.
Yeah, and I mean, we just did fallout from another lender where they brought the appraisal, title was in, we disclosed it on Monday, closed it the following Monday. There's not many lenders out there doing that. Joe knows how the secondary works better than anybody out there, which allows us to make more business decisions.
The secondary market, that is.
The secondary market of mortgages, right? So all these mortgages are sold off in the secondary, whether it's to Fannie Mae Direct, to an investor, to FHA Direct. And, you know, the owner of Nation One just has relationships with these people and has been doing this for 7, almost 8 years. And the guy's really mastered it. So between that and really now I get to be a big fish in a little pond, right? I guess I was kind of the number one units guy in a big pond, but like, and I had some say, but it was a publicly traded company. You know, when you needed to make a business decision, it took time, and sometimes it was limited based on, you know, the fact that it was publicly traded.
Right.
And, you know, it was great, but once I realized what a smaller company could do, I knew that's where I needed to be for me, for my employees, and mainly my clients and referral partners. I mean, you know, what we built at Finance of America was great, but now the power of Nation One has taken it to the next level. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, we just closed a deal in Harlan Court. I was never able to close a deal in Harlan Court.
Where's that?
Harlan Court's in Vineland. It's a condo association. You know, most realtors don't know because it's so hard to sell in there, because one woman, Lily Cageman, who developed it, owned most of it. She recently sold most of those units, and not a lot of people knew how to navigate that in the secondary market, where Joe did.
Tricky.
Yeah, so, you know.
You closed that one condo in Vineland, too, that no one else wanted to touch.
Yeah, on East Avenue.
You.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, and again, it's my knowledge how to put them up front, my team, but then you need that person with the expertise of the secondary market to see it through, and you know, that was great. And then we did some pricing exercises, right? And this is really what blew me away with Nation One. So here's this company that's literally 1/10 of the size, maybe even less than that, of Finance of America. And the pricing was better. It blew my mind. But then I kind of started thinking, and this is nothing against Finance of America, but when you get to these big companies, there's a ton of operations people who make big salaries, who don't bring any revenue. I mean, they bring value, but the money to pay them's got to come from somewhere. And in the mortgage world, it comes from the rate, right? So we were actually pricing against Finance of America, and Nation One, this little small company, was more aggressively priced than this huge publicly traded conglomerate with 3,500 employees, where Nation One had 100 employees. And like I said earlier on, anybody with business knowledge, that kind of should blow their mind, right? Because most things operate in economies of scale, where the mortgage business, and literally 19 years in it, I kind of just always assumed that until I started really looking under the hood. It blew my mind that I was able to offer a better price to my customer at this small company than I could at this huge publicly traded company. So,
that's awesome.
You know, after talking to roughly 20 different companies, I knew that my home was going to be at Nation One. Joe and I negotiated a really good deal. And it's good to really have a voice. I mean, you know, at the table. I mean, he respects me. He takes my phone call anytime. I mean, this is a guy who's the owner of a mortgage company, right? To have that kind of connection and relationship is priceless. And, you know, you sprinkle that into what we had previously built, and, you know, it's kind of the perfect.
Such a win-win.
It's the perfect cocktail to a recipe of an awesomeness.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're on the fast boat now.
Yeah, we're on the speedboat, and I'm loving it. The cruise ship was nice. I enjoyed my time there, but I'm happy to be on the speedboat now. And if I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd bet a lot of money that I was going to retire on that speedboat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
So Blaise, like with your level of success and from what you've built, what kept you in Cumberland County?
This is my home, right? My family's here, my business is here, my relationships are here. I know everybody here. I love everybody here. It's home. It's as simple as it gets. I couldn't see myself really doing this anywhere else. I have some relationships in Atlantic and Gloucester and Cape May County, but the core of my business, which when I talk to all these people blows their mind, is truly Cumberland County. Probably 75, 80% of the business comes from good old Cumberland County.
And you still travel, and you have vacation homes, right? You have a Florida home and Avalon.
Seattle, yeah, I'm blessed. I have a house in Florida that I do Airbnb, nice. And I like to get down there, 4, 5, 6 times a year. I'm going there next month, taking the kids, and my sister and her husband are going with their kids, and nice. Over Easter break, they're all super looking forward to it, and it's going to be nice to unplug for a few days and just relax and go to the beach and swim in the pool and have a good time. That home I definitely wouldn't do if I didn't Airbnb. It makes it, it's an investment that I could use, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people call them lifestyle assets, right? So you start making some money. It's like, all right, well, now what do I do with it? Mm-hmm. And I've invested in quite a few things over the years.
Like what?
Well, my best investment ever is a shout out to my buddy Tim Chu. Him and a good friend, Nick Biaggi, Ronnie, who got me in the mortgage business, his brother,
nice.
Started a credit card processing company back in roughly 2003. And as I was in the mortgage business, in the beginning, I was doing some accounting work on the side, and I actually did some sales for those guys. And through the credit card company, it was a company called BC Processing. And, it was an amazing business, right? It's a true residual income. So my father was an accountant, so I grabbed his Rolodex of clients and called them all up and said, hey, guys, if you're accepting credit cards, maybe I could help save you some money. We saved a bunch of people a bunch of money, signed them up. And every month I got a check. It was pretty great.
Amazing.
And after a few years, Nick had bought a pallet company with another good friend, Brian Kruzman, little company out of Vineland called Gorgo, actually originally out of Newfield, called Gorgo Pallet.
And they create pallets.
They build pallets and recycle pallets.
That is so profitable. I have a friend of mine doing that in Bridgeton. I would have never thought
It's unbelievable. Well, literally everything you touch comes on a pallet. These T-shirts or these polo shirts, this bottle of water, all this equipment filming us got here on a pallet. Wow. So yeah, you think pallets, like, I don't know, when I was on the farm, we used a lot of pallets, right? Yeah. That's where my brain went initially. And then you really look into it, and it's an amazing industry. These guys took this business from like $2 million in sales to 60-some million in sales over like a 12-year run.
Hell yeah.
And so they had bought that company, and Nick was really entrenched in growing that and was ready to walk away from the credit card business. So my buddy Tim calls me. He's like, listen, Nick's ready to, walk from this. I want somebody to buy him out, and I'm thinking I want it to be you. You're the only person in our sphere that knows the business, because I've been working with them for a few years, understands it, and then also has the means to make the financial part happen. So we went down that journey. We bought the business, operated it for about 3.5, almost 4 years. It's actually how I met Justine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we'll touch on that in a minute. Operated for almost 4 years. We used that business and then my borrowing power to buy 2 other businesses, put them all together, and then we ended up selling to private equity. And, it was about a 3.5, like almost 4-year run, and it was great.
What'd you sell it for?
I don't even remember the total sales price, to be honest with you, but I think that my walk away was approximately $1.2 million.
Let's go.
Off a $400,000 investment.
Nice.
So it was definitely probably my, minus the mortgage business, my biggest flip. My best flip out there for sure. And we made good money along the way. I honestly kind of regret selling it. When we sold it, a lot of other companies spun off locally. Exactly. That probably wouldn't have happened. We were servicing some debt that would have been paid off by now. I probably wouldn't have had to do mortgages at the level I do. I probably still would have, but I wouldn't have had that pressure. But everything happens for a reason. It put me in a good position to then start buying and flipping real estate, which I've done a bunch of. I bought and built a house down in Sea Isle, which, my family loves. My parents, I did. I bought an old tear down and knocked it down, built the house there. And I got my CO in April of 2019.
Nice.
And that's where my family and I spend our summers. Once school's out, I pack the kids up. We go to Sea Isle. I commute back and forth every day. And my parents luckily have a house, literally one house in between us. So it's my house, a side-by-side duplex, and then my parents. So it's an ideal situation. When I'm working during the week, my kids get to spend time with their parents.
That's so nice.
Or their grandparents, my parents, and they love it. It's just great. I couldn't imagine my life without that.
That's beautiful. And you have 3 kids, right?
2 kids.
2.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's good.
I knew that.
Yeah. My daughter Bianca, she's 11, and my son Silvio, he's 8, and they're really great kids. I'm blessed to have them in my life. They are 100% my driving force. Everything I do is somewhat done for them.
For sure. It's amazing how you juggle it all, and again, like so calm, cool, and collected all the time.
That's the outside. On the inside, it's like a pinball machine on multi-ball.
Really?
Anybody who played pinball knows what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to not let the ball go down the hole, hitting the flippers.
Well, you stay poised.
I try. I think there's a saying out there that life is 20% what happens to you, 80% how you handle it.
Yes.
And
so true.
Sometimes I freak out, right? Like, as you know, being in this business, it's highs and lows. It's like a roller coaster. Some days you come out of work on a Friday and you're like the king of the world.
Yeah.
And some days you go home and you're like going to pull over and throw up on the side of the road because you're so stressed out and there's so many problems and so many people's lives can be affected by those problems, and it all kind of falls on your shoulders and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, literally, I've made myself sick over stress. So I might seem cool on the outside, but sometimes it's a little crazy on the inside. But I've done a pretty good job of managing it. Yeah.
And then you hit the Peloton in the morning.
That's it. Yeah.
You keep fit.
I'm trying.
Sound mind. I mean, you live on the lake, so I'm sure that helps. Like, clear your mind.
My Peloton looks right out the lake, so I pedal. I don't even listen to any, and I love a lot of the coaches on Peloton. I'm a Peloton junkie, but I don't even listen to them. I literally put my own music on. I follow the workout. I mean, I look at it, but I'm looking at that screen, just making sure I don't miss any movements. But I'm mainly looking at that lake, just in the zone.
Yeah,
it's kind of my zen, my woosah.
Yeah, and you have a beautiful home. I've seen it. You let me do a photo shoot there. I appreciate it.
Anytime you want, bud.
And what I love about you and what I want our audience to see is that you're a testament that you can make a kingdom anywhere. You can make it work anywhere. Like in Cumberland County, you can still be wealthy and invest and learn and live like a king. And you're not, like, the fact that you stayed here just shows that, you created the life for yourself. You didn't go out chasing a big city and take your talents to corporate. You knew what was important to you and you just made it work. And you've continued to grow and educate yourself and invest throughout the years. And how old are you? You're just 41, right?
41, yeah.
That's amazing.
I feel pretty old.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, honestly, you're like one of the most successful guys I know at your age. And again, like, you're so cool and you got a great family and a great life.
I'm blushing.
No, for real. Like, I want people to see that. Like, you can be successful here. You can be successful anywhere. You can create opportunities for yourself. You just focus on relationships and doing your best with integrity and loyalty to good people and just create the life you want to live. It's beautiful.
It's really true. It's hard work. And like I said, do the right thing for the right reason. I don't care if you're selling pallets or doing mortgages, selling real estate, or if you own a pizza shop, I mean, if you walk through life with passion and treat people right, good things happen. I mean, that's all I did. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I didn't cure cancer. I didn't do anything monumental except for treat people good and work really hard, When I was at Finance of America, we would have these amazing sales trips, and there'd be 1,000 people, and I spoke in front of people all the time, and they asked me because I'm pretty outgoing, and I kind of enjoy this stuff, weirdly enough. Most people don't. They're like, oh, my God, you're going to go do a Tiff Talk today? Are you nervous? I'm like, no.
Yo, you've been amazing.
Did you guys?
Like you do this all the time.
That's just kind of naturally what I do, right? Did you guys talk about what you're going to talk about? I'm like, nah.
We're winging it.
Are you nervous? I'm like, no, not at all. Tiff's my friend. We're going to have a conversation and we're going to talk about life and mortgages and real estate and fun stuff. And there's no need to prepare for that. This is easy.
Yeah.
I mean,
totally natural.
do most of your people or I guess I'm a guest. Do most of your guests prep before and say, hey, Tiff, what are we going to talk about?
I really don't brief them much. I just tell them, what I'm going to ask them about themselves and what they do. And then we just flow, and I make them feel really comfortable. So they do better than they expect. And it's just been natural.
Well, you are an amazing host. So you're always easy to talk to professionally. And I think it's probably a good reason of your success. I mean, when clients come referred from you, they all love you. They're like, oh my God, we love our realtor Tiff. She's the best. And you do fight for them. I mean, you care. A lot of the things that I talked about, you embody. I mean, I see it in you.
And that's why we work together.
100%. We're on that same level.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good that you bring the same energy that I do, and you operate under the same premise, right? It's about the client, it's about the relationship, it's about the reputation, and just doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So, I discovered today that you also play the guitar.
Yes.
And I want to put you on the spot. I apologize in advance, and I know this guitar isn't the best, it's not as tuned as possible, but could you just show your skills?
Yeah, I guess I could do that. I could do that for you. Sure. So in Tiff's studio, there was a guitar hanging, and I went to grab it because I've been playing guitar for 31 years.
31 years. Who would have known? What else can you do, Blaise? Jesus.
I think that's it. I'm out. I have no other skills. It's mortgages, treating people good, and a little guitar. So now I'm on the spot, and I'm like 5% nervous because this guitar has strings that are probably older than Tiff.
Disclaimer, thank you, Dan Thomas, for letting us use your beautiful mother's guitar. I know you love it, and we're going to get to it.
Yes, I tuned her up for you, Dan, so Mom would be proud. And if you want, I will. My promise to you will be, with your permission, and you can let Tiff know, I will come back and string her up for you. So if I come back or anybody else comes back or you want to pick her up, she's got some fresh elixirs on there and she'll play nice and smooth. Because I grabbed it for 2 seconds and these strings are a little rusty.
That's sweet. Let's see.
All right. Would it sound better with some fresh strings? All right? I think this is the first time that I got a little hot during this interview.
That was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, we will end there. Blaise, tell the people where they can find you, where your office is, and your social.
So we are on 1120 East Landis Avenue in Vineland. It's on the corner of Landis and Victory. We've been on Landis Avenue my whole professional career. Ooh, yep, thank you. We used to be at 1117. We're right across the street. We made the big move about 7 years ago and bought a building. It's a cool Victorian old building. My kids call it the castle. Like, oh, we're going to the castle today? But we've been there for 7 years. Recently, like I said, switched to Nation One, but it's all the same people that have worked for us forever. The only thing that changed was our email. Same phone number, same everything, same great service, a little better rate.
Drop your number.
Phone number 856-692-9494 is the office. And you guys can feel free to text or call me on my cell, which is 856-297-7087. I'm terrible at social media, so I really don't have a professional page. I probably should. I don't even have a headshot. I'm in the dark. It's kind of like sometimes people, they talk to me and they're like, how did you get so successful at all this stuff? I'm like, because that stuff's nice, but that's not the most important thing, you know? I mean, and I probably should augment what I already do with some more of that. And I might rely on Tiff for that because it's not my area of expertise. We're kind of old school, you know, just doing it old fashioned, and it's worked out really well.
And give us a quick little projection of what we can expect in the real estate market this spring and summer.
All right, so this is just my humble opinion. Don't make any bets on this, please. I personally think values are going to stay strong. Actually, reading the financial news this morning before I got here, it looks like we're seeing a little relief in the bond market today. So hopefully we'll maybe for the first time in weeks, we'll see some relief in interest rates. You know, the end of last year, they spiked all times high of the last maybe 20 years and hit in the sevens. We got some relief. On February 13th, the Consumer Price Index report came out, and said that inflation is still running rampant after 8 straight Fed rate hikes. The market reacted terribly. Rates shot back up into the 7s, and it did it really fast. I know, anybody who watches the news sees that. So today, honestly, and it could have changed by now, but this morning at around 9 o'clock, we were seeing some relief in the bond market, which directly correlates to your mortgage rates. So as that 10-year treasury yield comes down, mortgage rates will come down. And I saw it dropping for the first time in about 2.5 weeks today, 3 weeks. So maybe when I go get to my desk today, I'll have a nice pleasant surprise and open up the rate sheet and see a little bit of relief, But I do believe that regardless of where rates go, these values are staying strong, right? In 08, we saw a crash, and I lived through that. And the main reason that happened is because in 04, 05, and 06, and 07, we were giving anybody mortgages, right? Mm-hmm. And what are mortgages collateralized by? Real estate. Mm-hmm. When people don't pay their mortgage, what happens? The bank takes back the real estate. There was an influx of bank-owned real estate, and not a lot of buyers. It goes back to simple supply and demand. So there was a surplus of inventory. Every bank was scorned because they got their you-know-what's handed to them by doing not really in what I call not good lending. They were basically approving anybody with loose guidelines. And it was pushed by Congress, disclaimer, can't blame the bank solely. But they knew this was going to happen. These Wall Street guys are smart. And everything collapsed, right? And we're not going to see that happen here, right? We've seen rates go to 7%, and values are still strong. Mm-hmm. There's still bidding wars. There's still things moving off the market. If you have a hot property, there's 20 people going to look at it. If it's priced right, if it's in a good area. I think this is kind of our new norm. I think these values are going to hold true. I think the crazy appreciation has stopped, but I do think that we've now hit a steady, this is what values are now. I don't really see them coming down. Again, I could be wrong. I hope that rates come down. That'll help make these newer prices slightly more affordable and, more open to buyers. I mean, in Cumberland County, that's our biggest concern, right?
Yeah.
Values are super high. Rates are high. Incomes are not high.
And then for every decrease of rate for 1% is 5 million buyers on the market, right?
Yeah, approximately. I think the New Jersey or the National Association of Realtors has a stat that's pretty close to that. FHA recently reduced their mortgage insurance premium by 30 basis points, which is helping combat these rates. So that's effective for all loans, closing actually after today, March 10th, any loan, because it has to be endorsed by HUD after March 20th. So anything closed today will get endorsed after March 20th. So anybody closing after today will be able to take advantage of a reduced mortgage insurance, which on every $100,000 is about $25 cheaper a month. Yes. So not earth shattering, but definitely helps combat these rates moving the other ways as they have. And, it's kind of my unofficial State of the Union for local real estate.
Cool. Thank you very much. You are a wealth of knowledge. Congratulations on all your success. You inspired me. I'm happy we're business partners. And thank you for coming to Tiff Talks.
Well, I'm glad we're partners as well. I'm glad we're friends, more importantly. Thanks for having me. And when you want to have me back, I'd love to come.
Yeah, and super sick guitar skills, dude. That was awesome.
Thank you. A little surprise. You never know what I got up my sleeve.
For real. See you next time.
See you guys.